Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. This time we're talking about my teammate Frisco Fahs' top 16 mono red Gogeta BR deck. A lot of you guys have been asking me for this, so here it is. He did also get second in Swiss with it after Swiss is over for the event, so very impressive finish. Took it to top 16. The deck feels really strong. I feel like Frisco has a really good grasp of it. He's been playing it forever, and we're going to talk about it. They also released a free Patreon article about the deck and Frisco's tournament report, things like that. So I'm going to link that in the description below. Make sure to check that out on 3XG Productions. But that being said, we are going to talk about the deck here. I wasn't able to get the interview set up. We just couldn't make it work. But Frisco did send me some notes, so I am going to talk about that so you guys can get the information on this deck. Like I said, a lot of you guys have been asking for it. So before we do, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay updated with all awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I post here. If you're looking for a Dragon Ball Super community to get in touch with, make sure to check out the Discord in the description below. Amazing, helpful group of people. If you want to get caught up on some competitive content now that we are in regional season heading towards Nats, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. Really helps the channel out a lot, guys. And if you want to buy any of the cards on this deck or build the deck, make sure to use my link to TCG Player in the description below. All that stuff really helps the channel out a lot, guys. Really appreciate every single one of you guys that watches these videos and does that for me. With that being said, we will get right into it. So first we'll go over Frisco's notes, then we'll go into the deck a little bit. So his matchups: round 1, he won against Toa 2-0. Round 2, won against Toa 2-1. Round 3, he beat Shenron Ramp 2-0. Round 4, he beat Tricolor Janemba 2-0. Round 5, he played against Richard Zapp's Blue Yellow Apes and lost 2-0. Round 6, he beat Shenron Ramp 2-0. So really good shot against the meta. I mean, Toa twice, obviously a huge meta deck right now. He beat twice, one with a 2-0. He beat 2 different Shenrons, 2-0 again. So this deck, I think, goes to show it can go very aggressive, very defensive when it needs to be, especially aggro against Janemba. And the Apes deck was just a whole wide out of left field thing, but obviously, Frisco's on our team. He knew what the deck was capable of. That deck is just super crazy. But overall, Frisco had an amazing performance. He lost to Toa in top 16, 1-2. I mean, it's going to happen from time to time, but this deck draws so many cards. It can be so aggressive. I think it has a great Toa matchup, personally. So he has a few other notes about some of the other cards in the deck. Jiren's only relevant against Mill. I sided him out in all other... in all Shenron matches. So yeah, I know Frisco going forward mentioned he only wants to drop Jiren to 2 in the main deck. So I think he would side the 3rd, maybe the 4th for Mill, because it's only really good against that matchup, right? It's one of the only matchups where you're gonna go that long into the game. Like turn 5-ish is when you want to resolve Jiren. Plus Janemba, mills you, so it helps you get 10Ks in the drop area. Something worth noting in my opinion. So on top of the super aggro the deck is capable of, he says Force Ejection Mass Sand makes the matchup versus Shenron very favorable. So obviously, you're sniping energy no matter what, but the really cool thing about this deck is you have a lot of ways to control your Awaken between Kaba and the leader's ability. So what you can do is you can hard cast Force Ejection Mass Sand, snipe an energy, and then you can Awaken, untap your 1, overwhelm into Force Ejection Mass Sand, and then you snipe a second energy, because the way Mass Sand works like that, he remembers the energy difference between you and your opponent at the beginning of the turn. So if that energy total changes at any point, it doesn't really matter. The Force Ejection Mass Sand is still going to recognize that your opponent started the turn with more energy than you, so you can resolve as many as possible as you're able to drop. So then he says, Sand Kaba put in so much work. I wish I had 4 in the main deck. It's so good against all matchups, and this is the main thing you want to mulligan for against Shenron. So definitely can see that. I mean, it's one of those aggro tools that Shenron can't really deal with, because the leader pretty much can't attack. So that card is going to stick around for a long time. He has the 4th in the main deck, so I imagine he's going to be bumping the 4th to the to the main deck from the side deck going forward. So we'll go into the deck list here. The leader is obviously super powerful, especially in this type of format. Like against Janemba, for example, the 20k double strike is really good, and the added ability to turn off all your opponent's counters make this a really strong leader in this current format, where you have Janemba playing counterplays, you have random red-green decks, you have random blue-yellow decks. So this leader basically demands a negate, which can be really huge when it frees up your other threats to start swinging. So we have 1 remote serious bomb in the main and 1 additional on the side. So I personally asked Frisco, why there 1 remote serious bomb? Seems like a weird tech, but he had a really good reason for it. The main reason you play it is because, when your opponent, you're doing a decent job of keeping your opponent's board clear. You use the serious bomb on turn 4 to, ideally get rid of the last thing your opponent has, maybe one of the last 2 things. Then you Awaken, you have 4 energy available. You fuse into your Gogeta play. Your Gogeta 6-drop can clear another threat, and then you can evolve into the Gogeta 8-drop and then burn your opponent for 2 damage. So really solid reason there. It's basically like a dimensional banisher Fu, but you don't have to get rid of your drop area, so you don't have to mess with your Jiren shenanigans, you don't have to mess with your sparking for after image, things like that. 3 Jiren, kind of talked about it. He's going to probably bump it down to 2 going forward in the main deck. Really good against Janemba, but not the best against most other matchups, like I said, because typically you want to resolve your Gogeta fusion on 4, and then Jiren comes up on 5. You might play Jiren on like turn 1, 2, or 3. It's going to sit there for quite a few turns, and then like turn 5, after a Gogeta gets resolved, you're going to want to try and go for the Jiren. 2 is all you got, with 2 after image in the main deck, also 3 Denial of Hope. So that's the extra card package. Looks like 7 extra cards. I think that's a good number. There's not too many 10Ks in the deck, and there's not too many extra cards. You want to keep everything kind of flexible. I maybe would go like 3 after image, 1 is it all you got. But again, U6 Kaba, you probably expect it to be very popular. Wasn't too popular at Niagara, which is kind of, I guess, unfortunate for Red, because Red has a great matchup against it. But nonetheless, good ratios here. Denial of Hope at 3. Denial is just an insane card. It's probably the best extra card counterplay you can be playing in the current format, because 20k just hits such a wide variety of things. Sankaba putting in the work. I wonder how intensifying power Trunks would have been. I think the double strike is a lot more relevant against things like Shenron, because you're just rushing them down so hard. To a certain point, they don't want to be at like 4 life by turn 2, turn 3. And at the same time, if you can use a well-timed Sankaba to get them to 1 life, their Kaioken, their Gogeta is going to be dead. So that's really, really good on that end. We have the super combos, our Veku lineup. We've got 2 Veku the Fragile and 2 Veku Contents Under Pressure. Now, I think Veku Contents Under Pressure is really, really good. A lot of lists back in the day, like I guess like a format or 2 ago, used to play 4 because it's basically a free 15k beat stick. But the Veku the Fragile serves a few purposes. You -10 any of those pesky U6s that can't be KO'd by skills, because reducing the 0 is not KOing by the way the game works. And then it's another 10k for that Jiren effect that you're trying to get off. So the ratios there kind of work out to make the Jiren live more often. Then we just have our Vegeta Goku lineup. So we've got 8 different Vegetas that you can use for your fusion, for your discarding effects, things like that. And we have 8 different Gokus you can use for the same purpose. So between 10Ks, we have 8, 16, 18 looks like. That's a lot of 10Ks, so you're going to probably be able to get Jiren off reliably when you need to. But like Frisco said, it's really relevant against Mill. Now, I know these things are going to change up once the new Magnificent decks come out. Like the Vegeta that just pitches itself to grab a Gogeta from the drop area. That card, to me, seems like an auto 4 inclusive. The counterattack Goku, I don't know, maybe. I mean, the 3-drop Goku is not the most relevant thing ever. Like, attacking active modes right now isn't huge. It could be more important down the road, but the counterattack could be just as good. It's a 2-drop, so it's a little bit easier to play, things like that. So going through the rest of the deck, we have 2 Topo Righteous Aid. I know this card has been insane for Frisco and the rest of my team in testing. It really just kind of shuts your opponent's turn off, realistically. I mean, you counter with this, and it's really well balanced in my opinion, because it costs you, an extra card from your hand to use its effect. So you pitch 1, you negate with this, you get a 20k body, you get board presence, and your opponent really can't attack for the rest of the turn. I mean, it's going to cost them 2 cards from their hand. So majority of the time, this is going to make your opponent pass turn whenever you counter with it. Going forward, the 1 Super Saiyan Vegeta Exploding Weakness. I know that Frisco was a huge fan of this card over the weekend. Initially, we thought it was only really going to be good against U6 because it's basically a complete board wipe against everything they drop. But he mentioned to me this card was so good against everything that wasn't Shenron. So I think he's going to try and find a second space for a second one in the main deck. Going through, we've got our 4 Gogetas and 4 8-drop Gogetas. Obviously, that's the main shtick of the deck for the most part. And then the 1 Mirror Creator Absorb. Now, I did ask him about this. I was kind of confused because, like, it seems weird to play Mirror Creator Absorb without the Champa to go with it for the, double strike game ender. But basically, what he told me was it's very easy to put your opponent down to 1 life, whether you're burning them with Gogeta, whether you're pressuring with the leader, whether you're pressuring with Sankaba, and then you just drop the Mirror Creator Absorb to go in for game. They pretty much can't do anything about it if they're tapped out, especially on 1 life. So, really good there. Going over the sideboard, we've got the extra remote serious bomb just for matchups. I imagine like Vegeta Baby, things that have like really big boss monsters that you just need to deal with. The 2 Gallic Cannon, this card is crazy overpriced right now. We were going back and forth, a lot of us, in the team, about the merit of this card. Like, we kind of discovered it seems really good against Toa. You deal with time regulators, you deal with overall mirrors in certain situations, things like that. But the card has general application in a lot of matchups. Like, it's really good against Rogue that just drops 15Ks. Like, pretty good against Pan, pretty good against things like that just drop pretty good 15Ks. So pretty solid there. The 3rd Is It All You Got. The 3rd After Image is depending what you need them for. is that all you got? Bring it against wide decks, bring it against U6. After Image, bringing it against tall decks like Height of Mastery, things like that. The 4th Sankaba definitely coming in for Shenron. 1 Elder Village Guardian definitely helps against Janemba because you get to put 3 cards from your drop back into your deck. Also helps against Shenron in the random circumstances because you can target one of their cards in their drop and put it back into their deck. Force Ejection Mass Saiyan helps against Shenron like we talked about. Foreseeing Hit, really good against your different types of combo decks like Height of Mastery. Things where you can just pick things out of their hand and pretty much bully them for damage. Also good against Janemba if it's more of like the typical mono blue build with a lot of pseudo combos. Really good. Vegeta Exploiting Weakness, we kind of talked about it. Definitely want to bring this into the main deck going forward according to Frisco. And then we have the 1 Fulu Dark Banisher and the 1 Frieza Army Reborn where you just need a little bit more of a boss monster push to get the game ended. So overall, this was the list that Frisco played. Talked a little bit about the changes that he wanted to make, the changes he talked with me about. Also give you guys a few ideas on how to kind of play a deck in certain situations. This is the type of deck where you can go aggressive and defensive depending on what the situation calls for, and that's what really puts this deck above other decks in terms of putting it in the hands of a skilled player. Because if you know what you're doing, if you know when to play defense, when to play offense, this deck will reward you greatly, and I can tell why Frisco loves it so much. So guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, congrats to Frisco. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.